Thibaut Meurisse's Master Your Focus is a practical guide to reclaiming attention in a world built to hijack it. But beneath its simple language is a deeper argument. Your ability to direct attention is the single most valuable currency you possess. The book explains that mastering focus is fundamentally about mastering yourself, your impulses, your environmental cues, your choices, and your long-term commitments. The narrative traces a progression from understanding attention as a finite resource to learning how to protect it, amplify it, and channel it toward meaningful goals. To understand this is to understand why people who appear ordinary become extraordinary. Focus becomes the great equalizer that transforms scattered effort into powerful achievement. If this is your first time, subscribe so you don't miss out. Let's continue. The first realization Meurisse stresses is that most people struggle not because they lack intelligence or ambition, but because they dilute their attention across too many things. This dilution is similar to trying to boil water with the flames spread thin across multiple burners. It never gets hot enough to produce meaningful change. The most successful individuals narrow their efforts, often doing fewer things, but doing them with intense clarity. This is why companies like Apple under Steve Jobs, and later Tim Cook, cut down product lines instead of expanding them. Jobs famously returned to Apple in 1997 and slashed dozens of ongoing projects to focus on just 4. That act of narrowing created the conditions for the iMac, the iPod, and eventually the iPhone. In the same way, Meurisse shows that individuals must trim their commitments, sharpen their priorities, and resist the urge to be everywhere at once. This becomes the foundation for a disciplined, focused life. Once the need for narrowing becomes clear, the next insight emerges naturally. Focus is not just about what you choose to do, but what you deliberately decide not to do. By embedding this mindset, Meurisse teaches that saying no becomes a powerful act of self-respect. He implies that every yes steals energy from something else you may value more deeply, and that people who fail to guard their attention become servants to the demands of others. Real-life examples, especially from highly productive figures like Warren Buffett, illustrate this principle well. Buffett's famous 20-slot rule, the idea that if you could only make 20 major decisions in your entire career, you would treat each one with diligence, reveals how focus is intensified when options are constrained. The fewer distractions you allow in, the more room you create for momentum. This approach allows people to develop depth instead of remaining trapped in shallow work, and depth becomes the precursor to mastery. As this discipline deepens, Meurisse then leads the mind to the next lesson. Clarity is the engine of focus. Without clarity, effort feels chaotic. With clarity, it becomes directed like a laser. Clarity begins with defining what matters most, not vaguely but specifically enough that decisions are guided by a long-term intent. Many people set goals but fail to describe their underlying purpose, leading to aimless effort. Meurisse emphasizes that when goals lack purpose, motivation becomes inconsistent and attention drifts. He draws parallels with athletes who train with crystal-clear visions, like NBA players who map out their progress season by season. A strong American example is Giannis Antetokounmpo, who entered the NBA as a raw, skinny teenager but had a clear, almost obsessive plan to build strength, refine footwork, and become a dominant two-way force. That purpose-driven clarity guided years of disciplined effort, creating one of the league's most inspiring transformations. Once clarity is established, Meurisse shows that the next transformation happens in daily behavior. Long-term clarity must translate into consistent, focused action, and this action is rooted in habits. He argues that discipline is built not in grand gestures, but in small, repeatable rituals that accumulate over time. Modern neuroscience supports this. Habits reduce cognitive load, freeing mental energy for more creative and demanding tasks. Meurisse explains that when you train the mind through routines, you automate the boring but essential parts of life, ensuring that focus is not wasted on trivial decisions. A global example of this principle is Japanese Kaizen culture, the philosophy of continuous, incremental improvement. Companies like Toyota improved efficiency not through massive reinventions, but by automating and refining tiny, repeated processes. In the same way, the individual who wants to master focus must build rituals that eliminate friction from daily life. These rituals naturally lead to another profound lesson. Environment shapes focus more than willpower does. Many people rely on motivation to stay focused, but environment consistently wins over motivation because it silently influences behavior every moment you experience it. Meurisse makes it clear that if your environment is engineered for distraction, open tabs, constant notifications, cluttered space, noisy surroundings, your focus will constantly be under assault. But if your environment is designed to remove friction and reduce temptation, focus becomes effortless. The best performers know this intuitively. For instance, best-selling American writer Cal Newport maintains a distraction-free environment by avoiding social media entirely, working in a quiet space, and batching communication tasks. This intentional structuring of surroundings ensures that his attention remains intact for deep work. Meurisse emphasizes that people often underestimate how many of their struggles are environmental rather than psychological. Changing the environment becomes an act of reclaiming control. Once the environment is optimized, Meurisse transitions into one of his central principles. Attention must be protected like a fortress. The modern world thrives on stealing attention. Algorithms, entertainment platforms, notifications, and messaging systems are all engineered to interrupt. Meurisse's argument is that to master focus, one must become selective about information intake. Not every message deserves your time, not every notification has value, and not every trend must be followed. This isn't isolation, it's curation. A global example is how many CEOs and high-level entrepreneurs guard their communication channels. Elon Musk, for instance, has publicly mentioned limiting the number of people who can reach him instantly. Similarly, Barack Obama during his presidency reduced decision fatigue by simplifying wardrobe choices and delegating lower-level decisions. Protecting attention becomes a way of preserving mental bandwidth for the tasks that matter most. But protecting attention is only one side of the coin. Directing it wisely is the other. This leads Meurisse to another critical insight. High-impact tasks should receive prime attention time. Many people waste their most energetic hours on low-value activities, checking emails, scrolling, or performing tasks that could easily be batched. Meurisse argues that the mind is freshest early in the day for most people, and this time should be used for thinking, creating, planning, or executing meaningful work. This is why many successful individuals, from Oprah Winfrey to Jeff Bezos, protect their mornings fiercely. Bezos refers to his early hours as high IQ time, reserving them for deep decision-making. The lesson is clear. Schedule your highest value work when your mind is strongest. At this stage, Meurisse reveals another critical barrier to sustained focus: emotional clutter. Even with a clear environment, well-designed habits, and structured routines, unresolved emotional noise can splinter attention. Stress, fear of failure, self-doubt, perfectionism, and procrastination all drain cognitive resources. Meurisse teaches that managing emotions is essential to maintaining focus because the mind cannot concentrate fully when carrying emotional weight. This is evident in modern workplace dynamics in the U.S., where burnout and mental exhaustion have become widespread. Professionals may know what to do, but find their energy fragmented by emotional overload. Meurisse's approach mirrors therapeutic practices like cognitive reframing. By changing how one interprets experiences, emotional tension decreases, creating room for focus. When emotional clarity is achieved, mental sharpness improves dramatically. The book then progresses to a deeper truth. Self-awareness is the engine that keeps focus aligned. Without self-awareness, people waste time chasing goals that don't reflect their values or strengths. This misalignment leads to cycles of burnout, dissatisfaction, and distraction. Meurisse suggests that people should regularly examine their internal motivations to ensure that what they pursue is worth pursuing. This is supported by real-world stories like that of American entrepreneur Sarah Blakely, who built Spanx by identifying her personal strengths and passions rather than trying to follow a conventional career path. Her self-awareness allowed her to pursue meaningful work with intense focus because she wasn't divided by societal expectations. Meurisse encourages readers to audit their ambitions frequently, ensuring that focus is not wasted on goals that lack personal resonance. As self-awareness deepens, the next lesson becomes evident. Progress requires the courage to simplify. Many people complicate their lives. Too many commitments, too many tools, too many goals, creating cognitive overload. Meurisse argues that simplification is a form of intelligence. By removing unnecessary complexity, individuals free themselves to focus on what truly matters. A powerful global example of this is the success of minimalist entrepreneurship models. Companies like Basecamp, now 37 Signals, built highly profitable businesses not by expanding aggressively, but by focusing deeply on a few core products and rejecting unnecessary growth. Similarly, individuals who pursue minimalism in their personal lives, decluttering, reducing obligations, simplifying routines, report increased focus and emotional calm. Meurisse teaches that simplicity creates mental space, and mental space enhances focus. This leads naturally to another of the book's insights. Focus thrives on rhythm. Sustained concentration isn't achieved through force, but through cycles of work and rest. Meurisse explains that productivity is not a constant upward motion. It is a wave. Just as athletes incorporate rest days and recovery cycles, thinkers and professionals must maintain rhythms that support cognitive endurance. Without rest, focus collapses. American research on sleep and performance, particularly studies from the University of Pennsylvania and Stanford, repeatedly demonstrates that lack of rest decreases concentration, increases emotional reactivity, and reduces problem-solving ability. Meurisse frames rest not as laziness, but as a strategic investment. Those who honor cycles of work and renewal maintain long-term focus far more effectively than those who hustle without balance. After rhythm is established, Meurisse moves into another profound lesson. Mastery of focus requires mastery of identity. People act in accordance with who they believe themselves to be. If someone sees themselves as a scattered person, they behave in scattered ways. If they see themselves as a disciplined individual, their actions begin aligning with disciplined habits. Meurisse draws from psychological principles similar to James Clear's identity-based habits approach. Every action is a vote toward the kind of person one wants to become. This principle explains why individuals like American marathoner David Goggins transformed dramatically, not because of brute discipline alone, but because they deliberately reconstructed their identities. By repeatedly acting in alignment with a disciplined, resilient identity, they strengthened focus through identity reinforcement. For Meurisse, identity change precedes behavioral change. Once identity is aligned, Meurisse introduces another essential element. Focus requires resilience. Distraction isn't always external. Sometimes it is internal resistance when tasks become difficult. Meurisse stresses that doing meaningful work inevitably comes with friction, boredom, or discomfort. Those who remain focused are not necessarily more talented, they are more resilient. They understand that discomfort is part of progress. Examples from both global and American contexts illustrate this well. In Kenya, long-distance runners endure grueling training sessions that build mental resilience, enabling them to dominate global marathons. In America, entrepreneurs like Howard Schultz built Starbucks through periods of intense adversity. Resilience keeps focus alive during difficult seasons, ensuring that the mind does not flee toward easier but less meaningful distractions. This resilience then feeds into another critical insight. Focus multiplies when you track progress. Meurisse highlights that the mind craves feedback. When people see progress, even small progress, their motivation increases and their focus becomes stronger. Tracking systems, journals, checklists, progress charts, create reinforcement loops. This is why fitness apps exploded globally. They give users a visual representation of improvement. In the workplace, American tech companies often use metrics dashboards to keep teams oriented toward key goals. When progress is visible, the mind stays engaged and distraction loses its power. Meurisse explains that people who fail to track their progress often lose focus because they cannot see the connection between effort and results. The next insight builds on this momentum. Purpose-driven focus unlocks exceptional productivity. When individuals understand the deeper meaning behind their efforts, focus becomes intrinsic rather than forced. Meurisse argues that purpose acts as an emotional anchor that keeps the mind engaged even when tasks are repetitive or challenging. Real-life examples include social innovators like Malala Yousafzai, whose global advocacy for education keeps her work focused despite overwhelming resistance. In America, Environmental activist Greta Thunberg's purpose-driven clarity enables her to sustain a demanding public role. Purpose strengthens the mind against distraction by giving it a compelling reason to stay engaged. As purpose deepens, Meurisse transitions into a final and transformative insight. Mastering focus is not a one-time achievement, but a continual practice. It requires ongoing refinement, reflection, adjustment, and recommitment. Life changes, circumstances shift, new distractions emerge, and goals evolve. Focus is something to be renewed continuously. This is why high-performing individuals return to daily routines, morning rituals, weekly reflections, and periodic resets. They understand that the mind must be recalibrated repeatedly. In a global context, Nordic countries excel at this through work-life balance systems that prioritize mental recovery, ensuring citizens maintain long-term focus and creativity. In the American setting, leading organizations are increasingly adopting mindfulness programs and structured downtime initiatives to help workers maintain cognitive sharpness. Bringing all these insights together, Master Your Focus presents a holistic path. Narrow your priorities, define your purpose, build strong habits, engineer your environment, protect your attention, schedule high-value tasks strategically, manage emotional clutter, cultivate self-awareness, simplify your life, honor natural rhythms, reshape your identity, develop resilience, track your progress, anchor your efforts in purpose, and continually refine your focus. The book argues that focus is not merely a productivity tool. It is the very foundation on which meaningful achievement is built. When people master their focus, they master their lives, because focus empowers them to direct their energy, shape their environment, choose their commitments, and align with their true potential. If this message resonated with you, subscribe and join us for more wisdom that fuels growth.